You are listening to the Centropic Oracle, an audiobook podcast of science fiction and fantasy short stories that make you think and feel.
Compassionate Death by Richard Flores IV. The restaurant was filled with the sound of conversations, clattering dishes, and the occasional kid yelling. Death wasn't here for business. He finally had a day off, and he wasn't about to spend it eating ramen noodles alone. He wanted to talk to someone who wasn't dead. He spotted a young woman sitting at the bar, focused on her half-empty glass, oblivious to the world around her. He sat next to her. She looked up at him, rolled her eyes, and looked back to her glass. "I'm married, and I don't want to meet anyone new." "I don't have time for a relationship of any type, but you look like you have something on your mind." Death waited for her to look up before giving her a friendly smile. Death could see she had been crying. The smile faded from his face. "What's wrong? Maybe I can help." The woman raised an eyebrow, studying Death for a moment. "Unless you're a doctor, I doubt there is much you can do." "Well, no, I'm certainly not a doctor, but I can listen." Death waved over the bartender and ordered his drink. "Explaining things aloud might help." The woman looked into Death's eyes for a long moment. Her face expressed concern, but her eyes had a glimmer of hope. She finally extended her hand slowly. "I'm Kara." Death shook her hand. He took a sip of his drink to avoid introducing himself. The drink was strong, and Death widened his eyes at the taste and shook his head. "As you can see, I don't drink much. Here and there after a hard day's work." Kara chuckled, finally sipping her drink again. "Me either. But there are certain times I need one." "I agree," Death smiled. "I don't get much time to drink with work and all, but there are some days my work can be hard." "What do you do?" Kara finished her drink. "I work with the dead." Death said the words softly, with a faint smile designed to take the edge off the words. "Oh, like a mortician?" Kara sank back to a slouch over the bar and focused on her empty glass. "Death is what brings me here, or the inevitability of it." Death said nothing. There was little to be said to something like that. She was no older than 25, but certainly not the youngest soul he had ever taken. "It's my dad." Kara's voice cracked with emotion, leaning heavier onto the bar. "We recently found out he has cancer. The outcome doesn't look good, and the doctors seem to think he will die within the week." "Doctors don't really know when our time has come. That's not really for them to decide." "They are right a lot of the time." Kara sniffled to hide a sob. "It's just sudden. There was no warning, and now I find out our time is limited. It's just not fair." Death didn't know what to say. He never had to comfort the loved ones. He saw them, but never talked to them. The only thing he could think to say was what he said to the souls he took. "It is an unfortunate thing when death comes, but I assure you, death is not as scary as you think." "And what would you know of death?" Kara barked. "You're jaded to it. You see it every day, but for us it's a devastating blow. It's scary as hell." Death recoiled under her sharp gaze. Her words were harsh, but he recognized they were true. Death spoke softly. "I meant no offense." The anger faded from Kara's face. "No, I'm sorry. It's just, I shouldn't have even drank this much. I just was so sad and..." A sob, then tears overtook her words. Death placed a hand on her back. "It's okay." Kara looked at him. Tears streamed down her face. "I have a baby at home, and I try to be so strong for him. Here I am drinking alone in this place." Death handed Kara a napkin. She dabbed at her eyes. "My dad was always so strong for me. The thought of my dad never getting to know his grandson, that's the most heartbreaking for me. I just want my kids to know him the way I know him." "You love your father a lot, and that will show when you care for your own children. He will always live on in you and your kids. It will never be easy to lose a loved one." Death was echoing things he had told many souls who didn't want to leave. "Perhaps you should go home to your child and husband. Let them support you in this difficult time." "You're right." She stood up and took out her wallet. "No, allow me." Death put some money on the bar and walked the woman to the door. He waved down the first cab he saw and handed the driver some money. "You don't have to do that," Kara protested weakly. "I do." He waited for her to sit inside the cab. "I wonder, is your maiden name Williams? You look so much like a woman I knew." "No, it's Desjardins." "Oh, wow. The likeness is so strong, I thought for sure." "Well, Never mind. Death closed the cab door. Please take care of yourself. And please remember, doctors don't know for sure how long any of us really have. I will. And thank you for listening, Kara said as the cab pulled away. Death watched until the cab turned the corner out of sight. He pulled out his tablet and scrolled through the list of names. Marcus DeJardis was scheduled for tomorrow evening. Death marked the name as being completed. It would take at least 2 years before anyone caught the mistake.
We hope you enjoyed Compassionate Death by Richard Flores IV, read by Jeremiah O. If you'd like to make a donation to the author and narrator of this story, check out the story page link in the description and click the PayPal donate button, or pledge your support to us directly on Patreon. Would you like to submit a story to the Centropic Oracle? A link to our submission guidelines can be found in the description.